Friday, March 13th, 2020 is one of the saddest days that I will never forget. I had the 5:30 weekday Mass at my parish, St. Ignatius at Boston College in Chestnut Hill, and I knew that at the end of that Mass, I had to announce to the assembled that we would be canceling Masses that weekend and until further notice because of the COVID situation and virus. And we sort of went into lockdown. It was Lent. And it was a painful time, I'm sure, for all of us as we tried to stay safe, as we tried to have an abundance of caution so that we could all get through this. And I don't know about you, I thought it would be short-lived. And yet, even now, we can't not turn on the TV or radio or open a newspaper and not read more about this virus becoming Delta and then Omicron. And we ask ourselves, what could be next? And certainly, we felt this distance from one another. We had to keep physical, or what we called social, distance. And this was painful. But one of the things about that experience for us, and in some ways we're still living through it, is that it helps us to enter into today's gospel. I don't know about you, but I can sympathize with the crowds who probably looked at Jesus aghast that he would actually touch a leper. They had all sorts of purity laws in order to keep people from disease. These were not oppressive. They were ways in which they tried to keep the community safe and healthy. And so, yes, it forced the ostracization of the poor leper. And we can feel for those people who had contracted the coronavirus and couldn't have visitors. And we desired to visit them, and we knew we were restricted. And consequently, they were left without human contact. And so we can imagine more clearly from our own experience how the leper must have felt, being alone, isolated. And so he asks, pleads with Jesus. And Jesus risks his own health, risks being infected, to infect the leper with his healing love and power. Now, Jesus could do this. Jesus did not come to do this all the time. We hear at the end he withdrew to deserted places to pray. But he did this. He touched him. And by that touch, and by our reflection on what Jesus did, it tells us that we are called in creative ways to touch one another and to restore people as Jesus did to the fullness of community. I remember the advertisements for reaching out. Give people a phone call. Perhaps today we write people emails or send them cards or letters, but different ways in which we touch them and need to touch them so that they don't feel isolated, alone, and afraid. Physical touch is an important element. When we're born and we celebrate the birth of Jesus, Mary and Joseph held their child. And for now, we're sometimes restricted from having that physical touch. During the sign of peace, in my parish, we always say, let us give safely the sign of peace, so that we don't touch one another. But we can touch one another even by just waving and smiling and trying in our own way, being precautionary, but also reaching out and touching. It's our way of love, and love is central to the gospel. So let us go forth in love to touch one another, maybe not literally, but metaphorically.